Welcome to Creating Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Paige. This is an inspirational podcast where guests come on and share their real life stories. They discuss their struggles, hardships, and traumas. They also discuss how those encounters have helped them change, grow, and the healing process they've experienced. They share where they are today in hopes of helping someone else who could be going through the same or similar situations. So join me as we inspire others weekly to become the best versions of themselves. Hey y'all, welcome into another episode of Creating Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Paige. Today I have on Lori. She is a humanitarian, an entrepreneur who has touched thousands of lives with her self-discovery and empowerment. And today she's going to be sharing her story with us along with some strategies to help us build our inner strength. I'm so excited to have her on. Hey Lori, how are you?
I'm great, Paige. Thanks so much for inviting me onto this. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on and hear your story, along with hearing some strategies to kind of build our inner strength and empowerment. I'm really excited for that. I kind of need that right now in life.
Don't we all?
Right, yeah.
It's a stressful time for a number of us.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I should begin by just giving a brief thumbnail sketch of who I am and why I'm sitting here in this chair right now.
Sounds good.
So, first of all, let me just set it straight. Some people would consider me old. I'm 75. I'm almost 76 next week. And I don't think I'm old, except when I stand up and creak and all that kind of thing. But I
think
am.
It's the mindset.
So, yeah, I think it definitely is the mindset. And also what it is what's interesting is I was one of the first women in the world to sell computer systems. So 50 years ago, I was like hot stuff that I knew all this technology and that.
Yeah.
Today, I'm a Luddite. I mean, that was a half a century ago, and most of your listeners weren't even born.
Right.
So, things do change as well as perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, I was born into a family that was really dysfunctional. My mother was a religious fanatic, and she was convinced that I was possessed by the devil. Now, why was that? Well, back in that era, you're supposed to be a good girl. Mm-hmm. And good girls are supposed to fade into the background. They're not supposed to speak up. They're praised for being compliant and all that type of thing. Sound familiar?
Children are seen and not heard back then, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody said, oh, yay, my daughter just disrupted this conversation or anything like that. And so anyway, she was convinced I was possessed by the devil. My dad ended up putting me in a nut house, literally. And back then, that was a very, very dangerous place to be in a mental institution because that was the time when they were doing shock treatments and lobotomies. And as soon as I was admitted, they gave me a bunch of pills, which destroyed my photographic memory. But I still would become cognizant enough that when a girl next door came into my room and she was crying the fact that she had just had a shock treatment and she was going to be scheduled for a lobotomy, I had enough wherewithal to say, whoa, I do not want to go down that path. Mm-hmm. And so I started thinking about what could I do to not go down that path. And what became the first thing was I didn't have to swallow the pill. They could give me the pills, but I didn't have to swallow it. And so I stopped swallowing them. And within 2 months, I managed to get out of there with my brain pretty much intact. Mm-hmm. And got on a train and traveled across country, and realized at that point in time, I had nobody to support me. Whatever I was going to be up to me. And I had to figure it out. Now, my companions were the folk singers of the 1960s. The 1960s was a really interesting era. We had all these hippies and folk singers and all of this, and I was right in the middle of that. Um, and and I would listen to those songs at night, and that's where I would find my comfort. And I really took ownership of that I was going to be responsible. Now, I made a lot of mistakes. I married the wrong guy. I was married in that marriage for 11 years, and then I was single for a while, and then I married another guy that wasn't the right guy for me for 25 years. And, I made some mistakes. But I also did some good things. And that was I started a successful business, grew it, sold it, and retired when I was 49. Then came the time of failing retirement just because I was bored. And I ended up starting an international charity and working in Africa. But the message that I really want to say here was that I realized, even back when I was 17 years old, that if I was going to win, I had to use what I had. I had to win with the cards that I was dealt. That's all I really had. And somehow I had to figure out how to put one step in front of the other, and one building block on top of the other, and eventually move forward. Now, it wasn't easy. And even though I was successful in business, I wasn't very successful personally. I was lonely and sad. I had kids who I loved very much, but I wasn't a very good mother because I wasn't emotionally available. I was, my self-worth was all tied up in my accomplishments on what I could do from a business perspective. But I didn't love myself. Somehow it had penetrated into my being that I wasn't worthy. And you can understand that if your mother thinks you're possessed by the devil. That doesn't quite put you up on top of a pedestal, right? You're
Right.
kind of down below. So I think that that whole piece of not feeling worthy is really that's really a big issue for a lot of us. And so over the years, I developed strategies on how to strip that away so that I could find the real me and appreciate the goodness in me. And if you like, I'm happy to talk about that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So really, the more I would think about this is the fact that when you're born, no matter into what family or system you're born into, it's kind of like you have this suit of supposed tos that are slipped over you. How you're supposed to think, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to process, how you're supposed to comply. It's this big flunky suit of supposed tos.
Yeah.
And it comes from your family, it comes from society, it comes from your church if you belong to a church or whatever. But you're really not getting much of a vote. You're put on this train track and you're suited up and you're just kind of pushed down the track.
Yeah, for sure.
And and bad stuff happens. There's train wrecks.
Yeah,
and you
lots of
really
them.
don't know. Yeah, a lot of train wrecks, right? And you don't quite know what to do. And another thing is when you look in the mirror, oftentimes what you're seeing is you trying to look the way you're supposed to look, as far as not only now what's defined by your family, but by the magazines or by television or what's on TikTok or what's streaming or whatever. You know, that if you're
Yeah.
not experiencing this fun event right now, you're not the right supposed to set.
Yep.
And so when I was working over in Africa, I was working in Ethiopia, and and I was really busy and under a lot of stress during the day. But at night, I would come back to my house and I would be alone. It would be dark and it would be cold, and a lot of times electricity was out. So I didn't have anything that I could do by the light of those three candles other than think. And I finally started thinking about, well, what if I define my supposed truths?
Yeah.
What if I said, I'm not going to believe that unless it really makes sense to me? And I'm going to strip all these things apart and really start looking at it. What would I see? And when I started saying yes to that, I realized, number one, I had to really become good at saying no, you know,
Yeah.
that learning to say no was really important. And I also by now was old enough and had enough experiences and enough failures and all the rest of that,
Mm-hmm.
that I realized that I think I'm going to start saying no to little things, kind of safer things for me to say no
Right.
to, so
Mm-hmm.
I can build up that resilience
Yep.
and learn how to say no to bigger things. And how do you start saying no to things that might make you look different, or that might make you look unacceptable, or that might make you look like an outsider, and then you become more lonely. Um, there's a lot of risk taking in saying no.
Yeah.
But the important thing is to really be able to name our fears. What are we afraid of? And once we're able to define and recognize what it is we're afraid of, then we really start getting into a position to start saying, well, okay, I'm afraid of that, but what if I had this as my next move? Or if this happens, what if I then turn this way or turn that way? So it's a matter of putting in a backup plan so that I know what I can do if by saying no really gets me in even more hot water. I need to know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm gonna do, because
Yeah.
I do not want to become a victim. I should really say you are a victim, but you do not want to fall into victimhood, where you put that mantle on and say, oh, poor me.
Yeah.
Somehow I have to be able to stand up and say, yeah, this shit happened, and now what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I think the other thing to realize is that when we start saying no and bad things happen, the thing is that, bad things happen to good people. It does. It does.
Yeah.
And life's not fair. And so
Yeah.
we have to get over that. We've got to get over the fact that we think that we don't deserve this. Well, you know what? A lot of people get stuff they don't deserve. They really
Mm-hmm.
do. And what I suggest is when that happens, is to put your hand on your heart and say, sweetheart, I know you're in pain. This really hurts. It really sucks. But you know what? You're still breathing. You're still breathing, and you're going to breathe the next breath, and you're going to move on. You're going to be able to process this pain. You're going to be able to move on. And that in itself starts building that resilience and that ability to fight back and to be able to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing that came up was, well, there usually is some guilt that is hanging over us when we're into some kind of a abusive or really negative situation, that
Yeah.
even if we're not guilty of of anything that deserves to drive us to that feeling, we oftentimes carry guilt.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is let's treat ourselves the way we would treat our best friend. I mean, if our best friend felt guilty about something, we would try to console her, right? I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
would really, so let's try to be our own best friend and forgive ourselves for whatever our perceived wrong may be, because we all really try to do our best.
Yeah.
None of us get up in the morning and say, "Oh, I'm going to do my worst." We try to do our best.
Yeah.
And obviously, everybody that's listening to this podcast is really trying. They're taking the time to listen to you and me. And so they're already on the road. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of taking the next step.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've done in trying to work through all of this and trying to be helpful to others is I put together what I call a dream framework. And DREAM is really the acronym for desire, reflect, acknowledge. Let's see, desire, reflect, explore, acknowledge, and a mantra. So if what we're talking about is how do we become the curious entrepreneur of our life? How do we create ourselves, as you so aptly named your podcast? Well, what's our desire? What really is our desire there? I think really what we're saying when we're talking about creating ourselves is we want to be the best version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be the architect of ourselves. We want to decide who we are, what we believe, where we go, how we go, and so forth.
Yeah.
So I would say then we need to think about that and to reflect. And this reflection is the absolute key, because if we just learn stuff and we keep gathering information, but we never think about it and reflect about what does this mean to us, it doesn't become wisdom. It stays data,
Mm-hmm.
and usually with a lot of noise attached. So what our goal is we want to be able to, okay, here's our data, and how do we get rid of the noise? Well, what's the noise? Well, the noise would be what we're listening to, what we're reading, what we're hearing, who we're hanging out with, probably also our emotional baggage, because we all carry it.
Yeah.
We all carry this emotional baggage. So if we take the data and we get rid of the noise, then we're really getting to a point where we're able to think about what we have. So we add time and we think, and we all have wisdom inside of us. We do. We all carry that wisdom within us. And I'll tell you why I know is that I know for a fact that I'm one of a million wise women. I'm certainly not but I'm one of a whole hell of a lot that have been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all connected through DNA.
Yeah.
You know, every human being on earth and animals, and we share a lot of DNA.
Yeah.
And so we all have that DNA. We all have that wisdom. And so it's a matter of us stripping away that outer layer, that tough skin maybe that we've developed to try to protect ourselves, or the busyness that we've developed to try to find self-worth in all of our accomplishments. And we need to get to a point where we can access our own self. And when we do, we realize we really are worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of us really are worthy. And we're all born with choice. Every human being in this world has choice. Sometimes we might not feel like we have a choice. Sometimes we might feel really stuck and that we just really got shit on, you
Yeah.
know, that we're underneath the pile.
Yep.
But, you know, even when we're underneath that pile, we can start digging out. We can try to poke out an air hole somewhere, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and take a breath. So anyway, I've been talking a lot. Um, it's got to get boring for other people to just listen to me yap.
No, I'm intrigued. I've just been listening and like taking it all in. I'm totally intrigued by everything that you're saying, and I agree with a lot of it. It's just I'm kind of in a place right now in my life where like I need what you're saying, so I'm taking it all in and just listening.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I'm totally intrigued.
Okay. Well, so what part is hooking you? I mean, and we can go down that path because,
I think the part where it's just, bad things happen to good people and just trying to remember to like you said, be your own best friend, like that part has been really hard for me lately.
it is hard, isn't it? It
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
is. And it's, you know, every year I go to this self-care retreat, and there's this wonderful meditation leader that's there, Sylvia Bornstein, and I just love her. And she's like 88. So,
Mhm.
and she's got this little laugh. So she'll tell this story and then she'll do this little laugh. And it's so, it's really compelling. But anyway, the message she was really saying was the fact that, you know, bad, bad stuff does happen. And you ask yourself, why me? Why
Mhm.
does this have to happen to me?
Mhm.
But what if you ask yourself, well, why not me? Why would I get the free pass? I'm a person and
Mhm.
bad things happen to people. And, you know, I happen to just get the short straw and it just dumped on me. So what am I going to do about it? And that's the key. I think it's a matter of stopping and acknowledging that this really is a shitty situation. It's okay if I use that.
Oh
Can I
yeah.
swear a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can get a little salty for an old fart here, you know.
Oh no. Yeah.
But
No, you're fine.
okay. So the whole thing of it is that it's it's really what I think the first thing is we need to acknowledge that we're in pain
Mhm.
and that we really don't like it at all. And yes, you may be a victim, but then it becomes your choice
Mhm.
what you do about it. And the fact of the matter is that you have survived other really bad situations.
Mhm.
You've made it through. So you are a survivor. You're somebody that knows how to survive. You're somebody that knows how to change your situation. It just is exhausting.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can be exhausted, but
Yeah.
you have that inner strength to do it. And by going through that situation, you're going to learn some lessons but you only learn those lessons if you think about it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not automatic. It's not automatic. And you don't learn from mistakes or you learn from situations unless you are able to find those moments of clarity. And I'll tell you how I find my moments of clarity, and they're different for different people. But I think one way that's very universal is with nature. You know, nature is the universe's gift to us. It really, really is.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was so overwhelmed in Ethiopia by myself in this very chaotic environment, I would, every night I slept with a rock in my hand. I had a little smooth, pebbly rock that was about the size of my palm, and I could hold it in my hand, and that gave me a lot of comfort. It's the fact that you know, rocks are very grounding, pardon
Mm-hmm.
the pun, but they really, really are.
Yeah.
And they make a difference. It does. And if you're feeling depressed, the thing that will help more than anything is if you can take a walk in nature. To me, there's three things to do if you're feeling depressed: is go into nature, take a walk, and look at it. I mean, don't just trot along in your misery,
Yeah.
but stop and take a look at a leaf or look at a tree. I mean, make yourself stop and make yourself
Yeah.
think about what you're looking at.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And then pick up some kind of a stone. Just pick it up and hold it. And then the third thing that really helps is to help somebody, to just to help somebody else do something, whether it be cross the street or pick up a package or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's those three things are more impactful than drugs.
Yeah.
You know, they really are. And right now, this time of the year where everything is budding and greening up and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, there is so much beauty, just so much beauty.
Yeah, we just
But
got a ton of rain here in Kentucky where I'm at, and everything is like greened up and gotten really pretty. And I noticed it yesterday. I was like, everything's really green all of a sudden.
oh, and I bet it's just shimmering. I
Yeah.
mean, because your hillsides can be so beautiful,
Yeah.
and I bet it's just shimmering.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a listener told me the other day when I asked her, well, what did you get any nugget or anything that helped you out of my podcast that you listened to?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, yeah, you know, the thing that I really took away is you were talking about how if I was stuck in traffic, I should notice the daffodils.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, and so I looked out the window and my God, there was a daffodil.
That's funny.
And that was what she took. And that's fabulous. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if we can just take that moment, look out the window and notice something,
Mm-hmm.
that will interrupt that negative talk. And, you know, we get into so much negative self-talk and criticizing ourselves and rumination and all of that. Um, that's not helping. So we need to do things to interrupt that spiral,
Yeah.
and nature can help you. And I oftentimes have a rock in my pocket, literally, and it really helps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I've been going through a lot of stuff lately, and it's been really hard to kind of see the positive and see the good and all those things. I've kind of been stuck lately.
Yeah, and it's easy to get stuck, Paige.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's so easy to get stuck. And the whole key of it is that I'll tell you what I had to do when I was doing a lot of inner child work, and I actually admitted myself to a trauma center to deal with my past PTSD and all the abuse and that kind of thing. And I was in this session with this therapist, and she had me imagine. She asked me, what animal could come in and carry you to safety? And I thought of myself, I'm going to just back up a minute. I'd had a recurring dream ever since I was little. And what the dream was I was this little girl in this huge bed wearing this pink flannel nightgown.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother had come in to tuck me in bed. And then she said, well, you stay here, Lori. I'm going to go get the boogeyman ready to come see you. And she left the room. And I was curious, so I crawled out of bed, and the bed was like over my head. It was so high up in my
Yeah.
dream. And I got on the floor, and all of a sudden this big burly guy comes in, and he's dressed in this elastic, like jock straps are made out of, the elastic stretchy stuff, and it's wrapped all around him, and he scrunches down right next to me. And before he can talk, I wake up. So anyway, I was recounting this dream to my therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, what animal could come in and save you? And for some reason I said, well, a leopard could save me. And all of a sudden I was visioning this leopard coming into that room and me climbing on that leopard's back and that leopard walking through the muck and carrying me up to the top of a tree on an island in the Gulf of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And that became my safe place. Now, it was just imaginary. It was just an imaginary safe place. But I thought about it so much, and it kind of reprogrammed my memory. And ever since that day, I never had that dream again. But I can see me up in the tree with this leopard.
Right.
And it's just a matter of finding your own safe place. And it can be an imaginary place. It can absolutely be an imaginary place, but some place that you can escape to where you feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make any sense, or am I blabbing?
No, you're fine. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
Okay. Sometimes I think, oh God, now I'm way off on a tangent. Where am I
No,
at?
no, no. No, it makes perfect sense.
Okay. Okay. But
Yeah.
I think that's what, so I didn't get unstuck, but me climbing on that leopard's back, the leopard got unstuck, and he was able to get me to a safe place.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the message there really is that we don't have to do it ourselves. It's okay for us to hold out our hand and say, will you help me get unstuck?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, if you want my help, hold out your hand and say, Lori, just help me out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be there. I mean, we don't have to be in the same physical spot to be connected.
Yeah.
We don't. We don't. And we can absolutely help each other from a distance.
Yeah.
But it's
I
a
think
matter of asking.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that I've really learned from this podcast is I've made some really great connections over the years that I've been doing this, and I've made actually like friends from doing this. There's people that I still talk to, we may not talk daily or weekly, but we talk, we're still connected. And we check in with each other on a regular basis and like, hey, how are you? How's life? Like how is the thing that we talked about on the podcast? Like, how is it going? Like, how are you doing? And it's a really cool thing to have those experiences.
Isn't it though? It's fabulous. And so what I've done is created a Facebook page, the Wise Woman Sisterhood. And I would love to have you join. I would love
Sure.
to have your listeners join. And it's a safe place for people to connect and share and celebrate and just say, oh, Jesus, I just need some help here. You know, because we all go through it, but we don't have to be alone.
Yeah.
We don't have to be alone.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great because I mean, it's hard sometimes. Like sometimes you just need somebody that's like outside of your friends and family that's like a third party that can kind of like hear you on a different level.
Right. Right. And they don't get sucked into the craziness of it, you know, and they're not hooked into the different personalities and all of that, but they can look at it more objectively.
Yeah.
And we all need that. And I
I
think
agree.
that we can do that for each other.
I totally agree. I think that's something that's really cool that you've started.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. It, you know, because I'm a bit of a Luddite with technology these days, I'm not doing the best job possible, but there's getting to be some younger people that are involved and they're helping me out a little bit so that it's getting
Yeah.
better and better all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely, if you want, I can include the link in the
I'd
bio,
love to
the
do that.
notes. Yeah, for sure. So that
Absolutely.
people can go join it if they want to, the listeners and stuff.
You know, and another thing is that, so in my book, The Magic of Yes, Embrace the Wise Woman Within, at the end of every chapter, I have that dream framework that I mentioned. And I have those different dreams frameworks on my website under the tab Dream. And if anybody wants to download one of those, they're all free. I have a little connect button and people can ask for it and I'll be happy to email it. Because my goal really is to help people find inner peace and a more harmony. And life is really tough these days. It's tough. It is.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the good news is that we're connected because of social media, but the bad news is we're connected because of social media. And, you know,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, it's, everything's got a flip side.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of the things that the main 3 things that I have taken from this podcast are
Okay.
get good at saying no.
Right.
Bad things will happen to good people,
Right.
and be your own best friend sometimes because that's what we need.
Right.
And then also, I mean, I think a 4th one kind of in there is get out in nature and take a look at what's around you.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, nature's a gift. You know, you don't have to have money to be able to get in nature.
Yeah.
And
I
we
think
can all
I'm,
find a,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was just going to say, we can all find a rock,
Yeah.
you know.
I think I'm a lot better in the spring and summer, and like winter's really hard for me in general. And I think a lot of people that suffer with like anxiety and depression and mental health issues of any kind find that winter's their struggle. But when I can get out and just like walk in the grass barefooted, it's so just like, ah, for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a mini pig, and anytime that I can go just like sit in the grass with him and just kind of like
Oh,
love on him, it's such just like a refresher for me. I don't know
oh,
what it
that's just so
is.
cool.
Yeah.
What's your mini pig's name?
His name's Hank.
Hank. Hank the
Mhm.
mini pig. I love it.
Yeah.
What color is Hank?
He's half pink and half gray, so he's kind of like half and half. He's kind of like a little Oreo pig.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
That is so
But
cool.
he is the sweetest thing. Like he's so much I don't know, there's something about him that's so calming and so gentle that's just like lights up my world when I'm around him.
So he's a real safe place for you.
He is.
You know, so when you're feeling depressed, you can hug Hank.
Yeah, there's just something about him.
I know. It's the magic of animals.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they just really give the kind of love that you can't get from a human. You know,
Yeah.
I know I have a Australian cattle dog, Mooney,
Mm-hmm.
and I adore Mooney. I mean, she's just the best.
Yeah.
And my best thinking happens when I'm walking her. All of a sudden, we're walking along, and if I'm present, if I actually am watching the trees and the plants and
Mm-hmm.
this and that, all of a sudden some inspiration will come.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's that combination of the nature and Mooney.
Yeah. Yeah, I have two
So,
dogs too, but something about Hank is just super calming for me. I think my dogs are really just like wild and they're still young. They're 2 and 3 or 3 and 4,
uh-huh.
but they're still kind of like wild and rambunctious. But he's just calm and chill and just like whatever with life. He doesn't really care.
So is he in the house or is he
He's
outside or?
outside. Yeah, he used to be in
Yeah.
the house. He was in the house until about 3 years ago, and then he just got too big to be in the house all the time. But he has his own little house outside that I built him. So yeah, he's sweet.
Well, it's fun because the minute you started talking about Hank, your face
Lit
just
up.
lit up, and all of a sudden the tension just
Yeah,
kind of went away, and yeah, it's beautiful. It's just
he's
beautiful.
he's a sweet little thing. So my kid calls him fat. He's like, Hank's fat, and I'm like, he's not fat. He's just Hank.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's just full of love. Well,
yeah.
that's cool.
So
Huh.
yep. So well, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about today?
Um, what I would really love is if your listeners would leave a review of this podcast for you.
Okay.
And in that review, if they would indicate what is it that their takeaway is.
Mhm.
Did they learn anything? Is there
Mhm.
anything that was of valuable? I really appreciate the ones that you said. So listeners, if one of these resonated with you, could you please leave that in your review for Paige? Or if there was something else, because I really want my message to resonate with the
Mhm.
audience.
Yeah.
And so whatever you write, Paige will share with me,
Yeah, for sure.
and then I can get better. And we
Mhm.
can work on the messaging, and the messaging can improve because our goal is we want you to be the best version of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Totally agree. So, well,
Yeah.
listen, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your insight with us, and your lessons. I think they've been amazing. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I
Yeah.
really had a good time.
Yeah, me too.
And please stay connected.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I will definitely stay connected. I'll also put the Facebook link that you talked about in the bio so people can go get connected over there too.
Perfect. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
So, for
Okay.
sure. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure you hit the follow button on whatever listening platform you are using. And head over to my social media pages and give me a follow there as well. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok at Creating Yourself Pod. And if you have a story you would like to share on this podcast, email me at creatingyourselfpod@gmail.com, or you can message me on any of my social media pages. Make sure and come back next Tuesday for a brand new episode. Hope you guys have a great week. Bye.